Welcome to the second episode of our podcast. As usual, your hosts Dalzar and Kay. Don't forget, I stream on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. It would be amazing to see you on our live broadcast on Twitch. All the details at the bottom. Just go and click and do your bit, please. It helps us a lot. Without further ado, let's just get going. Okay, and we are live. Thank you very much, guys, for joining again. And today we have Kay, as usual, opening his beer. So
it's got God knows where now. I have to go look for it in a minute.
So that's
a great start.
This is the second one of our hopefully good series of podcasts, and today we're going to be talking about social media and its pros, its cons, and everything in between. So, Kay, take it away.
I don't know. I've been quite skeptical in some ways, right? I think that's maybe because I'm not on it so much as well. But it has had its positive impacts, and it's also had its negative impacts. I think as we talk, we'll get into a little bit more, and I'll tell you from my opinion where I think it's kind of let us down. You know, what about your opinion? What do you think? How would you consider it being in terms of good or bad?
Yeah, I think it's kind of both. I'm type of person who thinks like, look, this is the new technology. So, let me just lower the music volume slightly. It's distracting. There we go. So otherwise I'm shouting here. So I'm more of a person who thinks that, you know, it's a new technology and it's a progress. So, and it's a good progress. And with any kind of progress, there will be some drawbacks, some areas where you think that might not be great. And the other side of the coin is obviously it's good for society, etc. So I think we can go into detail about specifically, you know, what I mean by each. But overall, I think if we are just, you know, starting off, I think overall the positives were much bigger than the cons. And I think in order to, I mean, that's the reason why we can't just completely disregard social media, saying that it's bad and don't use it. And but obviously we need to keep an eye on the cons and make sure that they are regulated in a way. Again, that also is controversial because, you know, you can't really regulate things that you think should be freedom of speech. And but there should be obviously some other legal aspects applied to it. Like obviously we don't want any sexual harassment, pedophilia, and stuff like that lurking around on the web, and, you know, that needs to be looked into and cracked down on by the government. But again, there is a limitation on that as well, same as, you know, any other industry. So yeah, so that's what I think. What do you think?
I think we've reached the stage now where, as much as I want to disagree with what I'm saying, I think we've reached the stage now where it does have to be filtered a little bit. At the moment, there's no filter on what people can say, right? And like you said, this is quite sensitive because there's the freedom of speech. But then when you've got racism involved, or sexism involved, or, you know, abuse or bullying, whatever it may be called, it becomes a little bit worrying. And the reason why I said I'll touch on this a little bit more, a few years ago, I'm an avid football fan. So a few years ago, there was the Say No to Racism campaign, right? And that was I think it was introduced in the early 2000s or something along those lines. But the problem with that was it would still happen. It was limited, but the fines weren't as big. Regardless, it still took place, right? And there was fines. There was something done about it those times. However, now social media has become also a place where people can vent their anger and their frustration, and there's nothing wrong with that, but it depends on the way that you do it. So in the sense of what's happening today, you got young black footballers, for example, you know, they're subjected to a lot more abuse than they would have before social media, because there was a crackdown, and people didn't have an avenue where they can say what they want to say with and get away with it. Right. So I think the responsibility here comes down on what the social media companies do in terms of cracking down on this. Like, for example, if they know something like that goes out, that should be blocked immediately. Do you
Okay.
get what I'm saying?
Yep.
They got the algorithms and the AI to be able to pick up information like what it was about Corona last year, about how you couldn't talk, it was about a conspiracy and whatnot. And that's perfectly fine. I understand why they did that. But at the same time, there's other things that are going on a daily basis that will subside from Corona. And they do need to be tackled.
Okay. So I mean, I guess I know what you're saying. So obviously there should be some kind of policing, but
Oh, by the way, cheers, bro.
well, let me get mine. Let me
Yeah,
just
yeah, I
finish this
think you
thought,
should.
and then let me get mine. I guess I know what you're saying. And to me, it's we need some kind of policing. I agree with that, but
Yep.
the very crucial question is who is that police? And do you want the government to police that? Do you want the society to police that, or do you want some kind of separate lobby, or a group of people who people elect and get
Yeah,
them
I think
to
that's a good
police it?
idea. I think that's a great
And
idea. I was thinking along the same lines.
I've got my headset on, so keep talking. I'll hear what you're saying, and I'll grab my beer and jump on quickly. Yeah.
All right,
Feel back.
sure, man. Sure, yeah, no problem. So yeah, I agree with you. I think the whole idea of policing the situation um, is a good idea. But again, like you said, it's all going to be relevant to who does it. I think one of the big things that you pointed out on was maybe we vote people in. Social media influencers, people of high stature in terms of celebrities, things along those lines. People who are going to be held responsible for letting something slip. Whereas right now, nobody's held responsible. I think there was a campaign the other day by the Premier League, the FA, to for the social media companies. Cheers, bro. Cheers, man. Cheers.
Cheers, mate. Yeah. Okay.
There was a campaign to crack down on it and for the companies to filter out the information. And I think the social media companies completely just rejected it.
Well,
They completely
I mean,
rejected the idea.
yeah. I mean, social media companies themselves, they have their own agenda, obviously, and
Yep.
whatever the situation might be, the way that they started off, it might be that they wanted to have bring some benefits to society, and some of them might be just purely for greed and in money, which is fair enough. It's a
Yeah.
company as well. But the question is, like you said, who's going to police that, and who's going to police the police again? Because do you see what I mean? So there's an element of corruption. There's an element of kind of abusing their power. Because look, policing social media, I think, is one of the very things that you can't achieve. I mean, even when you elect somebody, it's not going to be efficient enough, because then they're going to be way overpowerful, because with just one tweet, let's say, or Facebook post or whatever, they can convince people to do something that probably not true. And if you have that kind of power, then there's going to be corruption, and we know that firsthand with any kind of government, whether that's first world or third world. Corruption happens equally, but maybe on a different kind of levels. But there will still be corruption, including UK. So if you elect a government, yeah, next time when the election comes in, you can vote another government. But then what are you going to do if the other powers that are funding these both of the, let's say, the parties are the same people, and they have an agenda? They might have different policies, but then at the end of the day, they're going to achieve this. Not much difference. Like it's very visible in US, for example. I mean, what's the difference between the Democrats and the Republicans? Pretty much, Democrats are not against gays and they're pro-life. That's pretty much the difference, and the rest of the policies are the same. And so, with the same thing with social media, if you have a number of people who are, let's say, elected to govern or police what's going on, how are you going to force them to, like, if you need to re-elect them again, what rules are they bound by? What the Constitution, or you see what I mean? So if they get corrupted, and everyone knows that, okay, this group of people who are policing social media in this country are corrupt now, so we need to change them, and but then they have a massive influence over people's opinion, and then they can just say, hey guys, these group of people are trying to overrule us, and then they're spreading fake media or fake news. And then, do you see what I'm trying to get to? because they have. Hello. I think we lost Kay. Just gonna wait for him to get back. Yeah,
Nice.
your audio is okay. Yeah, let's get cracking.
Sweet. Let's get cracking.
Yeah, so I was just finishing
Sorry
off a
about that,
thought
man.
there. No, that's okay. I was just finishing off a thought there in terms of the policing. Basically, I was just saying that I don't think we need the police. We have elected officials in the form of a government
Yep.
who let me do the thing. Yeah, in the form of a government who actually look after policing not just social media but anything to do with online traffic. I mean, online activity, and and obviously the companies like big social media companies, they have to adapt to different countries. So, and those
Mhm.
different countries will have different rules, and
Mhm.
that will ensure that they have to adapt from country to country depending on
Yeah.
the local rules. So but again, obviously, that's not without any kind of risk. Whatever the government that's got elected, hopefully will keep those rules, unless you're somebody like Trump who comes in and just changes all the rules. But again, the rules might need to be changed from time to time, depending on the decade you're living in. So going forward, maybe in 10 years, there will be more threats that were not accounted for. So obviously, the laws need to be changed according to that. And
Yeah.
so that's my opinion. I'm a
So what
person.
you think legislation has to get involved in order for us to have a little bit more control over the social media platforms?
I think so. Well, they're already involved. Obviously, it's against the law for you to do anything that can bring harm to other person, whether
Mm.
that's fraud or any other activity. But overall, I think I'm a type of person who would say, okay, so I don't like what that guy is spewing out of his mouth in his channel or whatever he's doing. He's preaching hate and misogyny and all that. Okay, if that's the case, I'm just not going to follow him. That's it. I think, in my opinion, if you just need to make sure that you police yourself,
Yeah.
and maybe you're a person who loves that kind of content, and there will be viewership for that, so you will follow those people. And but when I say you need to police yourself, meaning if you get some kind of information, you can't just blindly follow it. You have to get other sources and other areas where you can double, triple check the same information, so that you don't fall into a trap of this fake news thing going around. And yeah, so once you have kind of confirmation of that information being true, whether that's news or anything else, then I think you're a better place versus just going into somebody's blog or vlog or channel on YouTube, and getting some kind of information and then going through and saying, okay, so this guy seems to be telling me the truth, so I'm just going to follow him.
Yeah.
I'm going to treat whatever he or she is saying as a gospel and just going to follow that. That makes sense. So that's my
Yeah, no,
take
I
on this.
completely, yeah, I completely understand where you're coming from. I think one of the key components here is, you know, you're gonna have good and bad for everything. That's recognizable. I think we have to understand that and accept that you're never gonna be able to control everything and police everything and monitor everything. But I think it's also about education too. A lot of these people are probably in places in their head where they don't really know much about how to express themselves in a way where they've probably seen around them. All right, if we're talking here about, for example, racism in particular, yeah,
Yeah.
or we're talking about, let's say the Me Too movement, you know, the flip side to what's happening in terms of, the women getting their voices out there, which is an absolutely fantastic thing, by the way. The flip side to that is that a lot of men are going to feel like they're being attacked. They're going to feel like,
No,
okay,
no,
what about
absolutely. I
my
think
saying this?
I
You know
think
what I mean?
yeah, I think a lot. The idea was okay at the beginning, but then it kind of turned into this crusade against men for some reason. And look, this is no secret. There are some horrible people out there, and
Hmm.
they deservedly need to be in jail or some other way of punishment. But along the way, there have been a lot of other people who have been accused by mistake or taken advantage of by women, accused of rape or whatever, and their reputation, their family life, everything is down the drain. purely because some random person that they've worked with at some point in their life accused them of misbehaving at some point during the work time. I'm a big advocate of not guilty unless proven guilty. So if you prove somebody that's guilty, then that's fair enough. But but again, I guess this is more of a con side of social media. When you and this is partially what we discussed last time. So if you post something on the social media and then it goes viral, more there will be more people who would be outraged than not. There are more people who are going to say this is crazy and they need to go and do something and they need to be in jail. Basically, going full on crusade against that person, rather than people who will think rationally and think about, okay, is it actually true? Is it proven? Is the guy or girl or whoever is guilty? And rather than just jumping on the wagon and saying, hey, just get rid of the person. So and we were speaking about the hunting last time, if you remember. So with hunting as well, so there was a massive thing going around last year, I believe, where this doctor and there's someone else were posting their pictures of hunted lions and other animals, and then people were just judging them on, taking it as a face value and then judging it on that, saying that, oh, why they need to be shot themselves, they deserve to die, and they were attacking them, they were sending them letters at home, they were smashing their windows at home, literally harassing them big time. But then they don't realize that what they did was it's their hobby. We get it, it's not everyone's cup of tea. But then that's actually helping the environment, because they've paid a lot of money to kill an already dying animal, which is old and probably will die in the next month or in the near future. So you put it out of misery, that animal would probably, if it was under care of somebody, a human being, would have probably already put down, right? Long before that. So the animal is suffering. Why not get a lot of money from these rich people and invest that back into this conservation of these animals, and let them do whatever they need to do, right? So
that's something I actually agree with. If the situation is already where we've got a dying animal and the animal is going to be going out anyway, the quickest thing to do is just put it out of its misery.
Yeah, exactly. But people say, well, let the nature take its course, and let I don't agree with that as well. I mean, look. I mean, if that's the case, then just don't produce any medicine. Let the nature take its course, and don't eradicate viruses. Don't do that.
Can I make a point on that? Yeah. Let me go for it on that very quickly. I had in my previous job, I had a manager. And my manager, basically, we were talking once, and I was talking to him about beliefs and religion and whatnot. And he turned around and he said, to be honest, I don't really follow any religion. I said to him, well, what's the reason for that? Like, everybody has to believe in something. Bro, I'm so sorry, I need to move this, man. This is giving me OCD. I don't know why. So basically, I said to him, like, what's the situation? What happened with you for you to go into that state of mind? And he said, look, it's very, very simple. I had an aunt who I used to adore. She was everything to me, and she was a Jehovah's Witness. Now, I don't know if this is, please guys, don't put me on the guillotine, but I don't know if this is true or not, but this is what he said. These were his words. The reason his aunt could still be alive today, but the reason why she's not, was because I think, according to Jehovah's Witnesses, this is what he said, this is what he quoted, that she needed a blood transfusion, and according to their beliefs, you're not allowed to get that done. You have to just let God, if that's your route, then that's your route. That's how you have to go, kind of thing. And I found that a little bit bizarre, in my own opinion. Now, obviously, without judgment or anything, but I would think, like, the first thing, if you saw somebody who's got an opportunity to have a second lease of life, the first thing you're going to do is give them that opportunity, right? Because humans, naturally, they want to live. Nobody's born going, oh, you know what? Forget this. I want to die right now. They want to try and live as long as possible. So I found that quite bizarre, and that was the first time I've ever heard it. Now, going back to the other side is yes, the animal's already going down that direction. It's suffering more in the position where it's actually close to its death. It's not a whole process. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
with his aunt, for example, my manager's aunt, it was a process. So if you catch it at a particular point, you can still save it, right?
Mm.
In the state of the animal, if the animal's already like you can't do anything about it, then you know what? Tax someone's money, stick some serious money in their pocket, and then go and get your trophy. And if you do it for hunting or whatever it is for you to eat, but like you said about the conservation with the hunting in Canada,
Hmm.
you know, they have legally they have to cull the population because it just goes through too much of nature, and it's needed. You can't have too much of anything, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's just to go back to the social media point. It's important to recognize that first of all, it's all about the education. It all starts in people's homes, and then it
Hmm.
starts in the schools as well. Do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because in these movements, the one thing that I've come to realize, and the pattern that everybody's kind of probably realizing, is that humans are still not educated enough on anything that is completely dysfunctional to them, or that doesn't make any sense to them, or they've never experienced in any way. Like, again, if we go to the Black Lives Matter, for example, you've got people who everybody wants this to happen. The whole world wants this to happen. It's been crying out for something like this to happen for a very long time. But then you're always going to have a few bad apples that are going to turn around and say, well, actually, regardless of what happens, we're still going to be this way because this is just the best way to be. They just don't
Okay.
want to understand that things are changing. And sometimes in positives, sometimes in negatives, people take advantage. Like the negatives that I don't like about it is the comparison between people, is the way that people constantly just spend their lives and their hours going through people's posts, going through people's feeds just to see what the other person is doing, and then feel really, 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 really low and crap about themselves because they think that the other person's doing great and there's nothing that they can do about it.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that again with anything, I think that that there is some good that these movements have done. Like you said, Me Too and Black Lives Matter. But I think there's also the excuse me, the
You're excused, bro.
the the not so good things, let's just say, that has come about from those movements as well. And again, so the movement probably most likely was started with good intentions, but then it kind of moved into this bizarre thing where it kind of implements racism with the pretext of removing it. So I'll give you an example. So in US they have this thing. The name of it is escapes my mind, but what it is basically if you're applying to a university. This is just one example of what they do. If you're applying
Hmm.
for a university and if you are black, then you don't need to score as much as the white person. And for exactly the same course, exactly the same tuition and all that, but you can score fewer points in order for you to be enrolled to the same course as the person who
Yeah,
is
I know, I
white.
know what you mean. I
At the
think that
same
happened.
time, sorry, at the same time, the Asian person who by Asian I mean from not from Central Asia or like where we are from,
East Asia.
East Asia, exactly. It's Southeast Asia, East Asia.
Hmm.
So they need to score more than even the white person because they tend to do better in terms of
Academically.
the academically, yeah, in terms of the score points. And just because of this movement came about from what I said, and they tried to kind of reduce, say, okay, we want to level everything, so we want to remove racism by um by implementing racism, if that makes sense. So by the excluding
Yeah,
certain people
I get
by
what you're
race.
saying. I
and
get what
and
you're
like
saying.
those things, I think they shouldn't even be there because that's just wrong. And there's some other examples similar to that, like quotas for movies and stuff like that. It's just it does my heading. Last time I watched a movie, it was about Edwardian, like Victorian times in UK, and I think the Queen was black, and like, which is fine, I get it. I'm more of a look. If there's a role that's for a disabled person, of course I want a disabled person to play it, right? Like in Breaking Bad, the autistic son of of the main character was autistic, so an autistic person has played him. I believe he was autistic, if I'm not mistaken. But he was disabled in real life, and he played a disabled person. So I'm pro that. But then I don't want to see. No, let me rephrase that. I want to see factually correct scenes when I'm watching a movie, especially if they're trying to be serious enough. And it's the same thing like Quentin Tarantino's movie, like Unchained Django, right? So you know that scene where the camera goes through. Have you seen Unchained Django? Or Django Unchained?
Yeah.
So there is a scene at the beginning where the dentist, pretext the dentist, that he goes with the cart, and then there's a scene where he stops a convoy of slaves going through, and then the camera goes through each person's face, right? And then imagine a blonde Scandinavian-looking guy chained there as well. I know it's not the same thing. I'm just giving an example. That doesn't sound right to me. Like, you can't have a white person pretending to be a slave because that's wrong and that's racist in the first place, right?
Yeah.
And you can't do the same thing with the other thing. Everything needs to be in context. So, like these kind of things, and like in Hollywood, there's a massive thing. How many female directors are there? How many black? I get that there needs to be. I think the opportunity needs to be the same to get there. I think there shouldn't be any hurdles more towards one particular group of people versus the other ones. I agree with that. And and some, like he's saying that in chat, no black Vikings or Punjabi or Zulu. so there is a context behind it. So you need to put everything in context, and there shouldn't be any hurdles for one group of people to get the same thing as the other set of people who can achieve. But the opportunity should be the same, but the outcome should not be the same. I don't want for the outcome to be the same versus the opportunity, if that makes sense. Yeah.
What you're trying to say, I think, if we simplify this, what you are trying to say is, regardless of race, regardless of sexuality, regardless of gender, regardless of background, culture, whatever it may be, everything should be given on merit for what the person is abilities are. So that means if you got a bunch of people all coming in and they're applying for the same job, right? Let's just give that as an example. If I wanted to be a fair employer, I'd invite everybody in, right? Who I think is the correct candidate, right?
Yeah.
And as I bring them in, I'd give the job on the person who has deserved it the most in terms of their merit, in terms of their qualifications, their abilities, their experiences. I wouldn't just give it on the basis that there's a quota that I have to fill, because at the end of the day, also in my opinion, if I was given, I come from a Middle Eastern background, yeah. If I was given a job on just the fact that I was Middle Eastern, I'd be quite insulted. But that's in my opinion. Do you get what I mean? I'd be quite insulted because it's like, oh, you're only giving me the job just because of my background, just to fill a quota. But do I match? Do I have this credibility? Am I credible enough to be in your business? And that would make me start thinking, am I actually here because of my qualities and my abilities, or am I just here because there's a quota that's being filled? And I agree with you 100%. This is why it goes back to the other thing we were talking about last week, about an even playing field. We do live in a world where, unfortunately, it's not very fair in many situations, but in other situations, it's also very fair. But we want to try and be consistent across as many platforms as we can in our society, across gender, race, color, culture, religion, whatever it may be. The key component here to everything is that we treat each other as individuals and as proper human beings, right? And we treat the world around us with respect as well, because a lot of us today, we're quite detached, and hence why I mentioned social media, and we spoke about social media, because we do have today a lot of people who are detached from society. Like when I was younger, bro, I was playing out the whole time. What's the time right now? Friday evening. I'd be out right now. I'd be out right now. I wouldn't even be at home at the age of 10, 11, 12,
almost 22, 8 right now. Yeah.
I'd still be outside. In the summer, I wouldn't come inside until it was like almost 11 o'clock because it was so bright outside. Today, I walk past playgrounds, I walk past courtyards, I walk past, kids' playgrounds again. and they're empty. There's no life in them. Everybody's
Yeah.
just inside playing. Or which, look, don't get me wrong, because I know you're an avid gamer and I love gaming as well. But you know, I'm sure what your children, you're not gonna just tell them, you know what, no matter what, you have to stay inside and play. You're probably gonna encourage them at some point to
Hmm.
go outside and see what's going on outside.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I don't think with social media again, you have to know that everything is not what it seems, and most of the things that you see are going to be my camera.
What did you say? Your camera is shaking.
Yeah, for some reason it just started wobbling. With most of the things that we see on social media or anything online, like, doesn't have to be social media. Most likely, it's not what it says. Even from the, even if you're getting the information from the most trusted sources like the Guardian or the Financial Times, or I think the bigger they are, the more likely they're going to succumb to
They're gonna lie
to
more.
some kind of agenda.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just crazy. But yeah, you always have to look for other sources, and sometimes even then, most of the sources that you get most likely are going to be coming from one source, and then that's going to spread to different people, and then they would claim to be the first people who are reporting it. But so there is a bit of research that's involved. At the same time, there's a bit of logic. You have to apply logic. Is it possible? Is it not? And usually, what's the closest and simplest answer to logically to a given question is probably the correct one. And people try to make assumptions and think like, okay, so you're telling me that Assad is gassing children, then you just take it as that, then okay, then that's fine. If you don't have to research for it, look at other facts, then that's your problem. But look at other facts, and if that's correct, then okay, go for it. At least you've done your bit, and you try to find the true reason for that. But again, like the whole thing with the Middle East, man, like I was shocked how people were like, I would speak to people on the street or my people I know, like, guys, like, what do you think about that? And they would just just say whatever they heard on BBC News. I'm like, do you guys understand that BBC News is the one of the prolific liars on or one-sided people on the entire news network in the whole world?
Yeah.
It's like that was
Well, listen,
yeah.
on this note, yeah, just this stuff that we're talking about right now. When I was younger, when I was in school, yeah, I was doing IT, right, and I was getting quite a little bit savvy with it. I was getting a little bit sort of smart with it, and I was learning how to use PowerPoint. And PowerPoint, if you use it pretty well, if you know it pretty well, you can create almost an animation out of it, right? You can create some sort of story, yeah. So I created a story. I'm not going to say what it was. It happened after a specific event that took place in the early 2000s. And all I did was portray exactly what happened, the events of what happened of that story. Yeah. And what took place, them events, and the consequential periods afterwards, what happened afterwards. Bro, all I did was say exactly what happened, what the newspapers were saying. Yeah. I got banned from using a computer. I got banned from using the computer.
By your parents?
No, by the school.
Oh, by the school, okay.
Yeah, I was banned for 6 weeks for just portraying exactly what the newspapers represented of the incident that took place, and obviously the aftermath of it. All I did was exactly the same. And my parents got invited into the school, and they were telling my parents that this is quite sensitive material. It can actually entice people, and it can cause a severe uproar in the school. I was like, I'm 14 years old. Like, whatever you guys talking about? But that's how seriously they take these things. Like, in one aspect, they tell you to talk about your freedom, and you have the freedom of speech. And then when you go and be even just a young person, and you're talking in freedom, in the freedom of speech, it's restricted to specific amounts. And again, it all depends on what I think the most important thing here, bro. I think the most important thing here is intention behind what you're doing.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? What do you think about that?
It's your intention. So the two things we're talking about: people who produce the content and people who actually absorb the content, yeah, right? So,
Yeah.
People who are producing the content, which is where the intention is not portraying the truth, but getting as much money or being influenced by a specific agenda that was imposed by them by their superiors, etc. Or and people who absorb it, that they have their own intention of finding out truth. So I think, depending on which side of the equation you are, if you are the content provider, then and your intention is to mislead people, then it's the responsibility of the content absorber to find that out, because it's your moral duty towards yourself to know that, okay, I need to research this because this just sounds too good to be true, or it just sounds complete, crazy, or it just sounds like, oh, actually, it does sound very, possible to happen, but let me just check it anyway. And I think that we owe it to ourselves. I think, like, back to being the police. I think your school was acting as a police there, and again, they might have had their own agenda by probably the government, and they obviously was that here in UK or
in the UK? Yeah,
oh, right, okay,
in the early 2000s.
So
yeah,
the UK government is very, very bureaucratic in terms of these things, and they're very sensitive. So, but yeah,
tell me about it, bro. Like, I got banned from using a computer. I wasn't allowed to go anywhere near a computer when I was doing IT, bro. I had to sit somewhere else. I was using pen and paper in my IT lesson.
every school, like my son changed a few schools, so like every school has its own agenda. They do things differently, and it depends on where you are. But yeah, again, agenda plays a big part here. So not necessarily the truth. It's how we want to portray the truth, right? Oh, there's some things that we don't need to talk about, even though that actually is the truth, and some things that we need to talk about, but maybe just make it slightly, softer and kosher for people to digest. And I don't agree with that. And yeah, okay, obviously some type of news you need to guard that from certain age. Like, you don't want to show gore and beheadings and stuff like that to children. I get that. But then, if the person is adult enough, don't hide. I'm complete advocate for non-filtering.
Yeah, take ownership. Take ownership, 100%.
Yeah, I'm anti censorship and all of that. Like, don't censor anything. How it is, display it as it is. And I think we're getting to that. I think not many people actually are watching the mainstream news anymore. I for one watch BBC News just for comedy reasons, because I know the facts beforehand, and I watch them just I look at the presenter's face when they're deliberately telling a lie, and I can watch them.
And they're lying to you.
Little smile on, like these subtle like facial expressions when the person is telling a lie, and you see that on their face. Like, BBC News presenter is saying something about something, and then you can see that they're smiling a little bit, and then, oh, well, that's not true, actually. Why are you saying?
You know what? Listen, you're pretty nifty at this. If you can pull this up, if it's on YouTube, I'll see if I can find you the link. You know what? Crack on for a little bit. Talk. You carry on talking.
You send me the link. I'll put it up. Yeah.
Yeah, man. Just give me 1 second. Let me pull this up.
And then yeah, and it's not just in UK. I think UK is much better at this compared to the US. In US, it's all bought by the same. I mean, none of that I'm saying that it's pretty much the same person who's buying everything, all the news channels in UK. So it's Rupert Murdoch, aka. So yeah, they're all owned by the same owner, same person who
Rupert
gives them the
Murdoch,
agenda,
right?
Yeah, Rupert Murdoch, exactly. He owns pretty much 80% of the news channels, and that's why people are actually getting disgusted by networks, and they're moving on to online. And I think they owe it to themselves to research a bit before they believe the things that they read online, because any Joe and Susan can go in and just type in whatever they want online, and then they'll if they type enough controversial things, not necessarily being true, they will get certain amount of following, and then it's just a matter of equation and algorithm of the network, or like whatever the channel they're using to put them out, because people are watching it. and it will just target the people who are interested in this kind of stuff. So, and then by the time you know it, it's viral, and how do you know that that's not true? One example is Alex Jones. Do you know Alex Jones?
Yeah.
One example. I mean, like 80% of the stuff, like he says some things that are correct. I get that, but like 80% of the stuff that he says is just complete utter nonsense.
I'm sending it to you right now in the chat. Just check it out. That people don't even know what to think anymore. They don't know what's real and what's not. Because, like you said, well, Donald Trump has to be given credit for this about the fake news business.
Yeah, I mean, like... true that. I'm gonna tell you something else that I researched a bit beforehand, before this whole COVID thing happened, about Amazon.
Go on.
And we've spoken about Amazon beforehand. Look, there are two types of people who are at the moment. Okay, let's put it this way: there are only two people who are the richest in the world at the moment, and they're going head to head. One of them is Elon Musk, and the other one is Jeff Bezos, right? So we know who they are, so I don't need to go into detail. So Elon Musk has started his career with PayPal.
Yeah.
And he had pretty much two options. I mean, two things in his mind. I want to help the society at the same time. Like, I want them to be able to, do online transactions easier and better. At the same time, he wants to make a couple of bucks here and there. Fair enough. You never start a business expecting not, make a massive loss and help society, obviously. Yeah. So yeah, and it was a massive success. He sold it, and then he did some other projects like Tesla and SpaceX and all that. But his idea is obviously making sure that he does some kind of evolution in the technology so that it helps the society in one way or another. Mm-hmm. And that's the reason why when people actually mention Elon Musk's name anywhere, it's they don't go crazy about that. I mean they don't have any anger towards him. They said, okay, he's a good guy, and he kind of he's quite common in social media as well, and he talks to people, and he goes on Joe Rogan and all that. He smokes weed, and he's quite a relaxed person, and he's not over his head. Like he knows where he is, and he talks to people on their level, right? He doesn't think that he's above somebody. Maybe on some aspects, like obviously he's a clever guy. He knows how to make money, but he will never say to somebody else like, look, I'm better than the whole world. Like compared to, I can easily see Jeff Bezos saying that I'm better than the whole world, and oh, that guy from PayPal is the richest person in the world. Let me correct that, and sold some stock and retook the claim that he's the richest, and then after a week, Elon Musk took it over again. So it was just crazy that seeing that thing happening, and Elon Musk was like tweeting it as a joke, like, "Look, guys, this is happening. This is a joke." But then you can't see any of that from Jeff Bezos, because I can see him being, doesn't have any empathy, and he's egotistical. He wants to control the whole world and all that kind of overlord person, right? The evil guy in all the Hollywood movies. I see him as that, and Elon Musk is somebody who's just like the Will Smith of of the rich people. Like he knows what he knows what he's doing, and he's chilled at the same time. Like he doesn't give a crap about anything.
Well, you know what? Should I tell you? I'll tell you. Look, the thing is, I know I like Elon Musk. I don't dislike him. Do you know what I mean? I really, really do like him. I think what he's doing is fantastic. He's really changed the world. He's really.
I think he's weird.
Huh?
I think he's weird.
He is weird. Yeah, but you got to have an element of of being weird to be in that kind of state of mind and be able to go to that extreme, to where he is at the moment. Like, bro, not everybody can sleep on the floor of their factory and do that for days on end without giving a toss, But in that too, my worry is that everything starts off good. Yeah, everything starts off with good intentions, and then you get to a point where it feels like you're invincible, like you're reaching the status of legendary, like God kind of. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And one thing that kind of made me start getting a little bit sort of, okay, is Mr. Musk going to be going in that direction as well? The owner of Alibaba, Jack Ma, Jack Ma, bro, he's a proper down-to-earth guy. He's even more down-to-earth than Elon Musk, yeah? And they had this sort of, I think it was a conference where both of them were on stage, and they were both being asked questions on the basis that they're both billionaires, and they both made it from nothing, yeah? Mm-hmm. What I didn't like was, I think Elon Musk took Jack Ma a little bit too personally. When Jack Ma he was proper relaxed, he was proper chilled out. Maybe I'll try and find a video. My friend showed it to me. He was proper chilled out, relaxed, and they were talking about artificial intelligence. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And they were talking about artificial intelligence. Like, I think the question was something along the lines of, which is more, not more intelligent, but which is going to be a superior being, humans or AI? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Now, there's obviously.
Oh
that's
no,
a
Elon
very
Musk
different
will take it 100% serious because he genuinely believes that AI will take over at some point.
Okay.
I mean, he believes he's an alien. He's an alien. I mean, he's that weird. I mean, I'm not even joking. He genuinely believes he's an alien. So.
Well, I hope he doesn't start like some crazy cult, you know.
But yeah, I mean, the guy just made a product which is a flamethrower, and it flew off the shelves. I mean, who
Yeah,
buy a flamethrower?
But my point is that you still don't want to get too big for your shoes and keep
No.
yourself a little bit down to earth, right? It's easy, bro. It can happen so easily. It can happen to anyone. Like, imagine, bro, you can buy a new hat and you can go out on the street and you can think, yeah, man, I've made it, like, because you're so excited about something
Yeah.
that you're doing, right? But in this situation, he was just saying that Jack Ma was just basically responding and saying, look, we gave birth to artificial intelligence. That means we will always be the superior being. Just like God gave birth to us, if you want to believe that, whatever your belief culture is or belief structure is. God gave birth to us, so we can never be more superior than God, kind of thing. Yeah. That's all he's trying to say. He's trying to say that humans are incredibly intelligent to get to the point where we've created something that's going to create itself and, you know, do all of that crazy stuff that it is going to do. And I think he was just ridiculing Jack Ma, and I didn't like that. It was like, okay, I know this is your element, but bro, you just gotta chill, man. Like, just do what you were doing on a Joe Rogan show and just smoke a spliff or something. You know what I mean?
No, but I mean, yeah, I guess I don't necessarily agree with what Jack Ma was saying there as well, because I think
yeah, but it's perspective though. That's what I mean, bro.
You respect the perspective, yeah, exactly. But you know, like, you can't have. How can I put it in perspective for you? So imagine Einstein is going to some professor in like massive biggest professor in a Christian university, right? And like he has beliefs of God and all that, and then there's on the other side is Einstein. And if if the professor, given like probably he's a genius as well, but not as much as Einstein, but let me say what I'm trying to say. If he starts talking, if he starts putting perspective about everything he says. Sorry, if he starts emphasizing everything he says from the point of view of his religion, then Einstein will probably ridicule him as well, right? Regardless of how big that person is. So, yeah, there is some kind of aspect of respect that needs to be in respecting of the other person. Although I get that, I get your point, but I think, you know, Elon Musk is just the too of a weird person to take this kind of thing.
I think that's what it
serious.
was. I think that I think you're right. I think you're right about that. I think he's got a personality where he's not very good at reading the room.
No, he's absolutely not. Like, unless you know him. Unless you know him, you would think that he's rude. Unless you know him, you would think like he's rude, like completely.
Exactly.
I get your point.
Exactly. Yeah. So for me, it was just about, look, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. Okay, he might not have the social awareness or the spatial awareness to know that, okay, maybe I need to tone it down a little bit.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, this guy is also a billionaire who made it from nothing. So you can't not take your hat off. You know?
No, of course. I mean, there are also billionaires like, you know, Kate Moss and stuff like. Yeah. So.
But you still have, bro. It still doesn't matter if you make $1 billion or $1
from nothing.
billion.
No, of course, yeah. You need to know some things and stuff.
You
like
have
that.
to give a bit of respect to that. But not everybody can do it.
But remember that they are the people who don't care about that, really. Like, they don't care that the other guy also made it from nothing. Do you see what I mean? Because to them, that's like they've gone through that. That it's like two people who've gone to war together and then they're coming back and they're talking about war, saying that, oh, you know, they've gone through the same thing, so they don't have to express their gratitude of the other person, or like they don't have to say to the other person like, hey, you've gone through the same shit as me, and you know, let's not talk about that. You know, the art of that, you know, it's not within the scope when they talk about this thing. And I think, you know, Alibaba's owner was talking slightly probably from, I think I know what video you're talking about. He was biased because he was talking about things coming from his culture and religion, which you shouldn't really
Yeah.
do on that kind of platform. But Elon Musk, if he was any other normal person, he would he would have probably respected that fact and say, I respect what you're saying. My point of view is slightly different, and then he could have probably gone that way. But
Yeah, he was just like, "Nah, you're an idiot,
Yeah,
bro.
yeah.
You're an idiot."
But that happens. Look, I mean, like Christopher Hitchens. I don't know if you know that guy. Unfortunately, he died from
You
cancer.
say the name again? I didn't hear it.
Christopher Hitchens. He's
It
prolific.
sounds familiar.
He's prolific. Tell you the truth of his opinion to your face, and he doesn't give a shit about what you think, right?
Okay.
And he's a notorious atheist, and he basically treats anyone who's religious as his enemies because that's what he believes in. Honestly,
I want to
this guy-
touch on that. I want to touch on that in just a minute. Actually, that's a
Yeah.
very good point you just raised. Go for it.
And we've moved on from social media. I think we've said enough. We're just talking about
Yeah, but
random stuff.
this is what we do, right? This is let's get
exactly.
talking.
So he's another like a similar person, and he would just tell you to your face like what he thinks, and then just he doesn't care
Oh yeah,
about
I know
what
this
your
guy.
opinion
Yeah,
is.
he's pretty raw.
Yeah, he is, but a lot of things that he says is true. Some things I don't probably agree, but a lot of things that he says is when you're talking on a platform where there are different people from different cultures, you need to leave your religion and culture, behind. And there was a video which I was wanted to say in the first place. There was a video with this I believe he was a professor. I think I'm not sure. There was no context. It was just a short video. So he was talking about things from his religious side, and then he was saying that I think it was about circumcision, and he was a rabbi as far as I know. I'm not sure. Don't quote me on that. But he was saying, I think the rabbi was saying something along the lines of, "Look, I mean, my son was crying more when we were having his first haircut." Versus when he went through a circumcision and people were laughing, and then he turned around and said, like, this is basically what I mean. You guys are talking about something, mutilating a child, and making a joke out of that, and that's a very respectable person, very intelligent person, is saying atrocious things as norm because of his religion. And if I would say the same thing as if my daughter. If I would say I would take my daughter and cut off her clitoris because of my religion and make a joke about that, do you hear how crazy it sounds?
Yeah.
And the people were like,
That's
"Oh
a very
shit,
good
okay."
point. That's a great point.
And people say, "Oh shit, yeah, actually, he's making a point," right? So, I mean, when people like, look, fine, it's your religion, it's your culture, and we get that, and there's things you have to do and all that. But then when you're on a platform where thousands or millions of people are watching, and you saying everything with the point of view of your religion or your culture, then you kind of making a fool of yourself. That's my opinion.
Oh yeah, 100%, 100%. Because you're not there to throw your point and get people to believe your point. You're there to have a constructive debate about whatever it may be. It doesn't necessarily have to be a topic about religion, or it doesn't have to be a topic about gender or whatever agenda it might be. But what people have to respect, again, bro, we go back to this point, is that when you're speaking to other people, you just have to, instead of seeing them as a threat or seeing it as, oh, I can't discuss this with someone because they're ignorant or they don't understand what I'm saying because they don't have my belief. Instead of seeing it as a threat, just see it as just a difference in perspective. Like, I'm sure we've had disagreements in perspective. We've had loads of disagreements.
Yeah.
But we don't sit there and go, oh, because you had a disagreement with me, that means you're completely different, so I can't continue talking with you. It's just a matter of it. First of all, our experiences and our conditioning and the way we've grown up and the way we've experienced life is going to give us a difference in opinion because we had different experiences growing up regardless.
Yeah.
So there is going to be an impact of that. There is going to be an element of that. Okay, if a person doesn't believe in something, which I believe, okay, I don't want to deny atheism because this is what their idea of not believing in something or believing in God and whatever they believe in terms of how we came about, or God or not, or whatever it may be. My perspective on this is very, very simple. Humans have to have hope. In order for you to have hope, you have to believe in something. It doesn't matter what it is. You might not believe in religion, you might not believe in God, for example, but there's something else you believe in. You believe in yourself, you believe in your opinion, you might believe in the love of your life, your family, whatever it is, bro, that means God to you, innit? It just doesn't necessarily represent the idea of a higher being or a higher entity that has control over you, but in some sense you are still putting your belief in something, because humans naturally like to believe and like to hope. So
Yeah.
when we are in these situations where someone doesn't have a completely different opinion to us, we just have to go, you know what, I respect that, there's nothing wrong with that,
Hmm.
you know. But this is what I believe, or this is what I think, because and the problem is, people start getting to a point, bro, where they believe that their ideas are them. The way that they live their life becomes them. But at any moment that can change, because your ideas can change, your beliefs can change. The people you learn, the people you meet, the things you learn from different people, expanding your horizons. These are subject to change at any moment. I know my beliefs have changed on so many occasions,
Yeah,
and
same.
I've been called up. I've been called up on so many things for them. I've been called up by people that are close to the religion, that are not close to the
I
religion.
mean,
That
we
people,
both know people who think they're religious, but then the things that they do is completely against the same
dude,
religion, and
it
then
goes
you
without
know,
saying. It goes
yeah,
without
it's
saying.
it's just crazy how they just. I can't imagine myself living a lie like that. Like doing like going on prayers and all that, and at the same time drinking and going parties. The idea of doing that, you believe that and you follow it 100%, or you don't. But there's another problem of religion as well, especially the one we're talking about. Well, before you die, if you repent and say like I believe and I've done all that, then you'll go to heaven. I mean, it's just so.
I shouldn't be laughing, because obviously people do believe that, but I,
No, but
I I know where you're coming from. I know where you're coming. If we can't laugh at things, bro, then what's left in the
But this
world,
is
man?
this is our opinion, and people can believe whatever they want. And if you're angry with me, leave a comment. So there you
Yeah,
go.
please just comment. Yeah, vent
tell,
your
tell,
vent your anger on the stream.
tell me I'm a shit atheist and or whatever you want. But I'm not an atheist. I'm not an atheist. I just don't believe in a religion. But
Yeah,
whatever that means to people.
but also you don't deny other people their need to believe in something.
No, I don't care. There's a very good saying in English saying, "Live and let live." Right?
Yeah,
I don't care what you do in your private life. I don't care what you do with yourself. It makes you happy. Go knock yourself out. I don't care if you're straight, you're gay, you're you like to be racist or whatever. Do it in your own house. Do it with your own, with yourself. I just don't want you to impose it on other people and
yeah. Don't
myself.
inflict it. Yeah. Don't inflict it on other people.
Don't make the society change change to be somebody that you would tolerate. Why don't
Yep.
you change yourself to tolerate the society? That's my point. Like, don't impose things on me. I have my own life. You have your own life. You live your life. But that this entire thing that I just said goes against religion, because the religion is based on pyramid scheme where you have to go and convert somebody else. That's true.
You know what? Let me raise a little point there. What you're talking about, the pyramid scheme, yeah? And I know what you mean, because do I know what you mean? I'm just gonna clarify this. Is this because you mean, the pyramid scheme leads up all the way to the top? And
No, I
there's
don't mean
one
that.
thing
Like
at the top,
you get something in return when you bring somebody else in this scheme thing. So
Yeah,
if I want to go to heaven and there is a very short route to get there, all I need to do is just go to
Take the
any
shortcut.
person who is on the street who doesn't believe in that. Tell them about everything about that. If they don't convert, I'm happy to kill them. If they convert, then I'm going to heaven. Pretty much.
You know what? You know what? I just imagine, like, when everybody dies, everybody passes away. There's this road that people come up to, and an Uber driver comes up, and you're like, listen, I've done my bit. The quickest way to heaven, please. Like,
Oh, really? Okay. Let me tell you about my religion, right?
Yeah.
You go to
And then the
heaven
Uber
because
driver-
yeah. You go
And
to
then
heaven
the
because
Uber
you
driver
converted.
decides at the
I'll
end-
go to heaven because I converted you. There you go.
Yeah.
Win-win.
I was gonna say the Uber driver decides at the end who goes into heaven and who goes into hell. No, brother. No, brother. I don't like the way you lived your life, brother. I don't like this. You are going to the hell, bro.
We have to make 2 stops before we get to your destinations. Oh, you don't like that? Then pay more. You know, get to A to B.
Leave me 5-star review, bro. Leave me 5-star.
But yeah, jokes aside, like my family members are religious, and you know I love them to bits, and I have
I've got religious family members too.
Yeah. I know people who are who believe in another religion who are also very close to me, and you know I love them, you know, and you know friends and stuff like that. So obviously their religion, and I respect that they believe in things like that. And like I said, you know, very good saying, live and let live. I don't want to impose my beliefs on them. I don't want them to impose their beliefs on me. I think that works really, really well. Because we get along as a human being on a very, you know, lowest level, raw level. We get along. We are both nice people. Maybe we're not nice people, but you know, we share interests. Doesn't matter. You know, we go out, have a drink, and you know, have a good chat like me and you. And that's about it. The moment you start bringing these beliefs, I think that's where the relationship and you
it starts getting sensitive.
Connection breaks, and people have start getting grudges and all that because they want to impose their things on you, and you don't agree with them, and then you want to impose your side to them, and that's the way it goes.
Listen, bro, I've stopped talking. Like, well, I don't want to say but people have stopped talking to me because, you know, my beliefs are different, or not my beliefs, because just the way I approach life is different. Because like I said, my beliefs can change at any moment in life. Like it depends on your experience and what you're going through in that moment. Like there was times where I was very skeptical in my life, and I believed that the world, you know, it's just crap. You get by, and that's the world, the way the world is. Now I see it from a completely different perspective. Am I going to shy away from that because I feel like there's a positivity to bring out from that? No, I don't. But at the same time, when I raise my questions about stuff that you raise about me, and I raise about you, or I raise about whatever it is that we're discussing, I do expect you to answer me in the appropriate manner, just like I would answer you honestly in the appropriate manner if you ask me about myself. Like one of the biggest things that made me start questioning things was religions. You know, whatever they are, it doesn't matter where they are, bro, because my experience, again, this completely changed my perspective about how people start perceiving things in the long run. Like at one point, my first question was, how come the richest institutions in the world are either governments or religions? Yeah, I mean, everybody knows the Vatican is pretty much more loaded than America. They probably, because they don't have no debt. so they control pretty much, and you know, I think it's 1/3 or something, or a quarter of the world is Christian Catholic.
Yeah,
that's a huge amount, bro. That's almost what, like 2 billion people that believe in the Christian religion. And again, like I said, there's nothing wrong with that. But why is it that something started off with such a
they just need to control their priest, that's all. So,
oh,
carry on. Sorry to drop that.
We have to censor that out, bro.
No, it's raw, guys. It's raw. Joking. I don't care.
I mean, joking. Look, it's fine.
What you're saying is correct. I mean, you know, in a way that obviously Vatican is a converted version of the Roman Empire. You know, some people might believe that, but I think overall what happened was, you know, I don't want to go into too much detail. There was a religion, and it was a religion that was peaceful, and you know, it was about love and all that, and then it was taking over the Roman Empire very fast, and Constantine at that point, you know, he was still pagan. And he said, like, well, this religion is taking over, and it's dividing. The Christianity was quite growing at the same time, but not as fast. And he's like, I'm just gonna, you know, like end this whole thing, because, you know, I can't have two sides of people, you know, like fighting and revolting in the Roman Empire. I'm just gonna convert to, even though I'm not Christian, I'm just gonna convert the whole thing into the whole empire into Christianity. I'm gonna call about, you know, 100 priests, and I'm gonna tell them to make a new Bible. Basically, that's what happened, and then that became the current Vatican, you know, and Catholicism, and without any checks and all that.
I mean,
Yeah.
if you look at the Vatican, a lot of their architecture is has developed over the way over the centuries, but it does come from the way that Roman architecture was as well. There's a lot of similarities in the way the construction is. It's very large. It has to have a large presence. And again, that's the thing. This is my point. It's always so glamorous and egotistical in a sense, where it's religion in if you go back to Judaism or the three main religions, even Buddhism or Hinduism or any of those religions, you go back, the further you go back, the more simplified it is. Like for example,
Yeah.
Jesus was he was God's son in the Christian beliefs, but technically, if you want to consider Joseph being his stepfather, he was the stepson of a carpenter, right? So that's the circle he had around him. Muhammad, the Prophet Muhammad, he also came from a very simple background too, and religion started in a very very simple construct, and yet we are here today talking about religious institutions that are richer than some flipping countries out there in the world. And yet the people that follow that belief and follow that religion are actually not being looked after. Where the whole point of the religion to become that rich is to look after all of its population. And yet, if you go to some of the
No,
most
no, no,
religious
no, no,
countries,
no. Sorry to interrupt you. That's not correct. No, it's not the job of the religion to look after people. It's the job of the people to look after religion. That's where the difference between Abrahamic
okay, that's a
religions
very good
and
point.
yeah,
That's a very good point.
Yeah.
That's a very good point. But I think from the
But I
point
know what
that I
you're
was
saying
trying
is that what you're asking for money for the religion, but
yes, the
then
donations
yeah,
and the
yeah,
charities that are
yeah.
being paid, they're not being given to the right causes. Like just to give you an example, even at one point where I was, going through conflicting arguments in my head about all of the religions that exist. Obviously, at that point, I hadn't visited Southeast Asia. I haven't been there. So,
Mhm.
from my understanding about Buddhism and so forth, I took that, as a very sort of okay, this resonates a little bit more with me in the sense of what the idea of religion is,
Mhm.
or faith, whatever you want to call it. And when I went to Thailand and I was visiting the temples and I was visiting these different places, it was no different than going into a church or going into a mosque. And yet you see there's so much poverty.
Mhm.
Okay, the government is supposed to look after its people too and whatnot, but there are so billions of people following this idea or this belief or whatever you want to call it, and yet they're believing in almost a false sense of hope, because they think that, okay, if I suffer today and I go through what I go through today, then God will repay me for what I've gone through on this earth. But it's like, no, that's the wrong way to teach people. It's like, live your life good, live good, prosper, find success, believe in yourself. You're not going to be hated, you're not going to be seen as this sort of enemy of the religion if you don't necessarily follow it. And when you do pass away, all right, that's another journey. Everybody's so clever at talking about what really happens afterwards, and nobody's been there yet. Like me and you, everybody talks about the afterlife. Okay, there's nothing wrong with imagining, right? But everybody talks about the afterlife, and especially when you're having these religious debates or where you're having these, whatever it may be that people believe in afterwards, even if it's in spirituality and whatnot. And some people say that they've had a near-death experience and they've come back from death and stuff like that. Okay, fair enough, that's understandable. But let's leave that circle just on the side for a bit. Okay, we're talking about the everyday human being who doesn't experience this stuff. How can you come and justify to me whether I've been good or not, and whether I'm going to go to hell or heaven or not? And you haven't even been there yourself. You don't know anybody who's been there in the afterlife.
Yeah.
Do you know anyone that's been to the afterlife and come back, bro? I
I'll
don't
tell you
know
when I see them.
anyone. Exactly. I'll tell you when I see them. Exactly. So I can't.
Probably in the afterlife.
Exactly. I can't take that seriously enough when I know that I'm living a good life and I'm trying to be a better human being on a daily basis. And yet you're constantly trying to strike the fear of God inside me that, oh, you're not being good enough, you're not being pious enough, or you're not being
Yeah.
submissive enough. Submissive to
You,
what?
you know what pushed me away from religion, because like yourself, I came from like I explained in the previous podcast, I came from a country where it's quite conservative, and they confuse conservatism with religion, and they think they're religious people, but then not
The
exactly. This is
hypocrisy. I
confusing
think that got to you the
culture.
most.
No hypocrisy. They're confusing culture with religion, and there's some mix-ups, and it goes without saying that People believe people believe in some things, and then they think that okay, they can get away with some other stuff and all that. So I came from that kind of same environment where I was very very conservative when I came in, and what pushed me away from all that, which I thought was my religion, it was actually a thing about religion that pushed me away from that, and then start researching about this, and then realizing, okay, this actually is not religion what I'm following anyway. So why am I following this? So what it was, you know, I think somebody said to me, if you are not Muslim or any other, like if you're not Christian or anything else, before you die, like you've lived your life as dirty as you can. You've robbed, you've killed, you lied and you did horrible things, and before you die, you realize that you've done all the wrong that you did, and then you suddenly start having this urge of believing and say, I repent everything I did, and I believe in you, oh Lord Almighty. When you die like that, you go to heaven. Compared to another person who lived their life as an angel, never hurt anyone. In fact, they've done a massive charity where they've helped a lot of empowered, poor people where didn't have any water. They invented amazing inventions which catapulted the third world into being one of those leading countries. And that person, because or he or she not following this religion, when they died, they didn't say, I believe in God, they will go to hell. And that made me start thinking about this whole thing. Is like, that can't be true. If it is true, then God is a, bleep, bleep, bleep. Because that's not a good God.
Yeah.
And then I'm not following the right person. So, or the right God, if that makes sense, right? Do you see what I mean? If God allows this to happen, then that God is surely not good. If that God exists.
Mm-hmm.
And then that made me kind of think about the whole thing, and then I started following Ricky Gervais, and then the whole
thing. Don't follow Ricky Gervais, man. He'll ruin your life. Listen, Ricky Gervais is the kind of guy, if you meet him, you look back at your life and go, shit, my whole life was a lie.
Mate, I would like gladly
I love Ricky Gervais.
Go and spend an hour of my life, if he can, I mean, rather, to just talk to me. I'm like, hey, let's just talk about random things like you did, and hopefully when we get big, maybe he will join us, for like 10 minutes.
You never know, right? Get the message out there, guys. We want Ricky Gervais on this podcast at some point. Listen, bro, what I wanted to say was as well, there's it's for me, for my experience, it was the contradiction of living with myself, right? I found it difficult to go and pursue specific things which humans feel that they should pursue, and then go and try and justify that by saying, okay, God, please forgive me for what I'm doing. I found it difficult to live with myself where I was doing something that first I wasn't convinced in doing, because I had a lot of questions that weren't answered. And I'm always going to have questions that aren't answered. And people might say, oh, you're just in denial, or you just don't want to be part of it. But the truth is, I just want to be part of myself. I want to be part of being able to make my own decisions and not having to live with guilt or shame. Or I think that saved lives of millions. I think we just got a chat come in from RBT1889. Alexander Fleming invented penicillin that saved the lives of millions of Muslims. But according to Islam, I mean, that's exactly the point we're trying to talk about. These are the exact things that we're talking about. That's a very good comment that you made, RBT 1889. Like the fact that, and that's vice versa. It's not just in one way, and that's just the way it is. It's vice versa. There's a lot of things, for example, the Muslims have bought into the Western world that they should get credit for too.
By the way, they're the ones that they were the ones, and I can give you a good example. They were the ones who were prosecuted by the same religion in the first place. Like, for example, Ibn Sina. Like, He started dissecting people and understanding the organs and understanding the difference between sicknesses and all that. And he started with people who were Zoroastrian, who let their bodies be eaten by the nature and the animals to give it
Yep.
back, right? So they came from the nature and they're going back to the nature, etc.
Yep.
So he started kind of mutilating bodies. Well, I think mutilating is a bad word. He started examining bodies, the dead bodies, or exhuming bodies from the graves, and started studying them. And then immediately he became a heretic, and they started blaming him, and they drove him out of the city. And the only person who saved him was the emir or the king at the point, who was also interested in that kind of stuff, and they were friends, etc. And that after that, a big leader, Islamic leader, he came in to the city, and then just ended the whole thing. And we know without his studies, like medicine would be probably in dark ages at this point. But people, a lot of the times, like you said, that credit needs to be given to them, especially when at medieval times, Islam was the cradle of that was the pinnacle of the high. Like at the moment, what the Western country, all the researches that are happening, all the research that's happening in the Western world. Imagine that in Middle Ages was in Middle East and in Central Asia. That like in Iraq, Baghdad was big, and like my city, those were the epicenters of the research, and a lot of the scientists and people who researched a lot of things and made the whole world different, made it better. They suffered a lot from religion, a lot. They were called, like witchcraft and they were magicians,
course,
and followers of Satan. What are they doing? Mutilating bodies and all that. They were called so many things, but then they didn't care about that because they knew the truth was more important. What they think was more important.
It's the goal, exactly. It's the agenda, man.
And the credit needs to be given. Yeah, and the credit needs to be given to them because they persevered in a lot of shit that life has given to them, and it's just amazing. I don't think it's right for us to say that they gave to the religion. I think they gave to the world despite the religion. I think would probably be a better way of putting it.
Bro, let's forget religion for a second. You know about Alan Turing, right? The guy that basically cracked the Enigma, right?
Yeah, so, pretty much the first computer, invented the first computer.
Exactly. Yeah. So again, let's just bring it back to something where someone in a specific community doesn't get the credit that they deserve because some kind of shit agenda is taking place. Alan Turing basically cracked the code that helped, the Allies win World War II. According to our understanding. Of course, there's obviously so many different events that took place, but that was one of the key components,
Yeah.
And obviously it led to so many other different factors moving forward in terms of, like you said, the computer and so on.
Yeah.
He never got no credit until he
was actually prosecuted because he was gay.
He was exactly. Yeah. He got no credit until I think it was maybe 2013. He was pardoned for being gay. Like,
well, there's another
after
thing.
He passed away.
Yeah, there is another thing. It was done not because he was gay, but because the research that he was doing was classified, and they couldn't reopen it, and that kind of goes hand in hand. But then, yes, I agree with you. Like, it was completely stupid what they did, and they should have reopened the case long before that. And
he should have been credited.
But what I love about the UK is that when that happened, they gave him the credit that he deserves, and everyone knows about him. And also on that, without Alan Turing, that couldn't have happened, and without Al-Khwarizmi, who invented algorithm, which his research was based on, probably wouldn't have happened as well. So, and again, that person went through a lot of shit in his life and a lot of persecution, and both people kind of are quite similar to the way. Obviously, he wasn't gay. I don't know if he was gay or not, but he was perceived as being, somebody who's not really religious, and yeah. So both people, Alan Turing, inventor of the first computer, obviously he had no idea what he was inventing. He knew what he was doing, but he had no idea of future implications of. Yeah, and a lot of the times, to be honest, that inventions that people make, they don't realize what
the impact is going to be. Yeah. They think they're just fixing a solution for the moment, but it ends up going into some completely different world, man. Like, for the thing that pisses me off the most, and that's something that you mentioned, was we're talking about Alan Turing, right? And Alan Turing He's been pardoned now and he's been given the credit. Whereas someone like Jimmy Savile, I'm sure you know about Jimmy Savile,
Yeah,
correct?
of course.
Yeah. So someone like Jimmy Savile was given a knighthood, and BBC chiefs knew what were going on. So the agenda was keep it going as long as it doesn't go out, and this is going to be bad news for the BBC. It was okay to continue with it because it was bringing in viewers. You see what I mean? Like, this is the contradiction that makes me want to really step away from the status quo and really discuss things that we're talking about today,
Mm.
and get people
Yeah.
involved and think critically about what's going on in their lives, and see what the direction it takes them in. Because I tell you, bro, the only question that got me to my next stages and my next phases in my life was why. I always asked why, because I needed to know why I'm doing something, or what the reason for me to be motivated to do something is. You can't just tell me pray for the sake of praying,
Yeah.
or go to uni for the sake of going to uni, or what does that serve me? What does that give me in the process? How does that help me grow as an individual? How does that help me transpire into something that I want to be, if I'm just constantly doing things that I'm told and I don't understand why I'm doing them? This is
Mm.
why you still get the racism. This is why you still get the homophobia. This is why you still get the sexism, and all of these different elements where people treat each other like shit.
Yeah.
Because the education, on all levels, it's so systematic in terms of the way you're taught and the way you're supposed to live your life, that everything else gets thrown out of the window. And then you end up, again, we spoke about this coming here and being conflicted, whereas for me it was definitely conflicting. You're learning one thing inside, then you're learning another thing inside. Who do you want to be in this case? And the best thing to do is merge the best of both worlds and find your own route. Do you know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah.
And if you do find a good route, then help people, educate people in that aspect too, man. Like, it doesn't necessarily have to be just you got the information and you keep it to yourself and you think nobody's gonna listen. um so what if they don't listen? At least you've done your bit. At least you've said something that might have an impact on someone. You never know what might happen, man. Do you know
Yeah.
what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So
Go on.
no, go ahead, man.
No, I mean, we don't have to go even that far as Jimmy Savile. I mean, look what happened recently with WikiLeaks and Chelsea Manning and
Yeah.
Edward Snowden. I mean,
Hmm.
they knew that they were probably going to be killed, or um, just completely removed from the history, just for things they were going to do, and they did it anyway because they thought that that was right. And it's crazy how people just stood and watched what America was doing to them, and even down to now.
It's still a fight now. It's still a fight.
Yeah, he's still hiding. The founder of WikiLeaks, what's his name? Damn it, I'm really
You
bad
said
with
his
names.
name.
No, founder of Wiki.
Oh, wasn't it the? Was it?
Julian Assange.
That's the one, Scandinavian or something like
Yeah,
that, right?
Julian. I think he's from South Africa. I think, I'm not sure. But anyway,
Oh, is he?
I think so. I don't remember. Anyway, doesn't matter.
Okay.
So like, he's still hiding in an embassy. Like he.
Wait, I thought he was going to be released to be tried.
Yeah, recently, but I mean, he can't still leave the embassy.
Yeah, that's right. He's in prison.
I think. Yeah. And why? Why this is happening? Why everyone just thinks that this is a norm when somebody is telling the truth is a norm? But then these news, we're going back to social media and the news and all that, which is a good segue to end.
He's Australian, by the way.
Oh, he's Australian.
Just
okay.
for, yeah,
True.
So
He's Australian.
make sure, yeah.
When these national networks are spewing lies and hatred every day, hour and hour, and they're getting like what 50 to 80K an hour, sorry, a day. These presenters. Why do people just think this is a norm and just stand by and just watch this happen? Like Edward Snowden is like, we don't know where he is now. He's just hiding somewhere. Chelsea Manning is in the prison.
It's fair. It's fair, bro. It's fair. If you get involved with this kind of stuff, they're trying to make an example. That's what it is. They're trying to make an example. If you go out to this extent and you show the truth to this extent, this is what is going to be the result of it.
Yeah.
Your freedom.
Assange is in prison apparently. Yeah.
I want to give a shout out to RBT1889, man, for watching and staying with us throughout this whole time.
He's my
Really
regular, don't worry, mate.
appreciate it, man. Yeah, that's awesome, man. Fantastic. So yeah, man, like, how did you find today? I enjoyed it today. I think what we're getting close to wrapping up. I'm
Yeah,
Is that
we
correct?
are. Yeah, just to wrap it up. It was a good chat. And again, I think
Sorry about the disconnection again, the
no, that's
technical
okay.
fault,
Don't
the
say that.
technical
Don't say
issues.
that. We're gonna cut it out. Don't say that. Nothing happened.
Technical.
Nothing happened. It's all good.
Yeah, man.
So yeah, no, it was a good chat and I enjoyed it again. Let's put it on YouTube. I really liked the video that you did. That was quite good, and I think
Oh, thanks, man.
what
Cheers.
really helped the hype is you sending it on Facebook to everyone. That kind of got a lot of traction. So let's try and do a similar thing and link it to our channels. And I'm
Yeah,
gonna
we'll do that,
rename.
man. We'll do that.
I did rename the channel to Let's Get Talking. So I think it's better if we kind of focus on this thing more rather than I have a different channel and then I'll do all that. So let's put this on YouTube, and I'll send the links and all that. Please, guys, if you like it, please follow, do all that shebang. And I know it's a cliche and everyone hates people say that, but it actually helps the little people like us.
It needs to be done, yeah, man.
It needs to be
It has
done.
to be done.
And we are doing this part-time, taking the time out of our lives. I have a pregnant wife and a child waiting for me to finish
Yes,
it,
you do.
and I'm doing it after my work. I'm really tired, same as Kay, and he has his own commitments. So it really helps if you guys follow us and subscribe
like,
to
share,
the YouTube
comment.
channel and comment and all that. Yeah, reshare. That would really help us. Yeah, that's it from me. Kay, any last words?
No, I just want to say, whoever tuned in today, thank you very much for joining as usual. And bro, it's been a pleasure again with you. I think you never got out of the pipe today. There were several times I wanted to say, "Where's the pipe? Is it not
No,
coming out? Is it not coming
wife's
out?"
at home today. Wife is at home. Can't do it.
Oh, okay, no. All right, that makes sense. That makes complete sense. So yeah, no, bro. As usual, I enjoy our chats, man, and I'm looking forward to the next one next week. And you know,
Yeah.
let's keep doing this, man. Like regardless, I always said that you watch my video. I said even if one person is watching and it makes a difference to one person,
Of course, yeah. I mean,
bro, that brings me satisfaction. I'm happy with that already.
We do it for ourselves and for anyone who's interested in this. So there's nothing attached to this. So yeah, thank you for tuning, guys, and have an amazing weekend. And see you guys next week, Friday. And don't forget, I also stream on Twitch. Sorry, I left you hanging there. I stream on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. So Friday's our podcast. And have a good weekend. See you next week.